In North Korea, there's a group of people known as human ATMs. By themselves, they've helped keep Kim Jong-un well-fed, funded the capital city of Pyongyang, and in just 2 days, nearly stole $1 billion from Bangladesh's national reserves. The core members of this team are even wanted worldwide by the FBI. They are North Korea's infamous hacker unit, Bureau 121. Back in the day, robbing a bank meant ski masks and AK-47s. But in the 21st century, the most sophisticated robberies only need 2 things: an internet cable and a few programmers. This story begins in the capital of Bangladesh. In January 2016, an employee at Bangladesh's central bank casually opened a job application email titled Lasal Ahram. 1 click was all it took to unleash malware inside the bank's internal network. But the hackers didn't strike right away. Instead, they stayed hidden inside the system, silently watching employees and studying every move they made. Their real target was billions of dollars Bangladesh held at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. To move that money, they needed access to the SWIFT system, the core payment network used by banks worldwide. But the weakest point in any system isn't the server. It's the people using it. Once the hackers obtained the usernames and passwords, everything changed. After a full month of hiding in the shadows, they successfully stole the SWIFT login credentials of senior bank officials. To the system, these hackers were now legitimate employees of the central bank. Then came Thursday, February 4th, 2016. The perfect heist had begun. They timed everything with surgical precision. In Bangladesh, Friday and Saturday were public holidays, so the hackers sent the transfer orders on Thursday night. When the money began moving through New York on Friday morning, Bangladesh's central bank was completely empty. By the time Bangladesh returned to work on Sunday and noticed something was wrong, New York was off duty. When Bangladesh Bank tried to stop funds being sent to RCBC in the Philippines through Deutsche Bank, no one answered. Perfect timing. Every office had been bypassed. Even staff at the New York Fed sensed something suspicious and emailed Bangladesh for confirmation. But because of the holiday, no one replied. So the system assumed everything was normal. To erase their tracks, the hackers also sabotaged the bank's transaction printer. They installed malware that blocked transfer records and forced the printer to keep showing errors. Only on Sunday, when the bank's network administrator finally fixed the machine, did the truth come pouring out. Page after page of suspicious transactions. 35 transfers. Total value, $951 million. Bangladesh's central bank immediately sent urgent stop payment requests to New York. But once again, time zones slowed everything down. The heist was seconds away from success. And then, one tiny mistake ruined it all. The hackers had predicted every scenario. Because of the time difference, New York offices were closed and hard to reach. Everything was going exactly as planned. Until something unbelievable happened. These North Korean hackers may have mastered elite-level code. But apparently, their English wasn't so great. Out of the 35 transfers, 1 payment worth $20 million was sent to Sri Lanka, to an organization called the Sharika Foundation. But someone accidentally misspelled the word foundation as fondation. Because of this simple mistake, the transfer instantly triggered the anti-money laundering AI system at Deutsche Bank, the intermediary bank. Under AML rules, the system automatically froze the payment and sent it for manual review. But there was one problem: Sri Lanka didn't even have such a foundation, so the transaction was blocked. That also triggered a second linked review inside the Federal Reserve network. New York's automated system flagged the remaining 30 transfers as suspicious and forcefully stopped them all. So when employees at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York arrived at work on Monday and saw the emergency stop request from Bangladesh, the transfers were fully terminated. Because of one spelling mistake, national assets worth $870 million were saved. But that didn't mean the criminals completely failed. Before the typo was caught by the AI system, 5 transfers had already been approved, successfully moving $101 million. Out of that amount, $81 million was carefully routed to RCBC in Manila. What nobody knew was that this global banking heist had started 9 months earlier. In May 2015, several mysterious men walked into an RCBC branch in Manila and opened 4 bank accounts using fake identities. After opening the accounts, they symbolically deposited $500 into each one, then completely disappeared. Until the day after the heist, suddenly, those same accounts received $81 million. The moment the money arrived, the hackers' money laundering machine kicked into action. Through local middlemen, they turned the cash into casino chips, then converted the chips back into checks. In a very short time, the full $81 million had been cleaned. Bangladesh could only watch helplessly as the money vanished without a trace. Then Governor of Bangladesh Bank Atiur Rahman did not report the crime right away. Instead, he chose to suppress the news, avoided filing reports, and even continued traveling overseas for meetings, hoping to recover the money privately and save his position. He kept it hidden for 1 month, until Philippine media exposed the story. Only then did the government realize the national treasury had been robbed. Rahman eventually resigned. So the big question became, who pulled off a bank robbery this sophisticated, a century-level heist spanning 3 continents? As the case exploded worldwide, investigators from the U.S. Justice Department, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and Kaspersky Lab compared leftover malware code found inside Bangladesh Bank's systems. What they discovered shocked them. The coding habits, encryption methods, and even unique digital fingerprints closely matched the hackers behind the 2014 attack on Sony Pictures Entertainment. Every clue pointed to North Korea. 2014 was one of the wildest years in Hollywood history. That year, Sony Pictures Entertainment spent huge money producing a political comedy called The Interview. The movie tells the story of 2 American journalists recruited by the CIA who use a trip to Pyongyang as a chance to assassinate Kim Jong-un. That's why many people jokingly called it Kill Kim Jong-un. When news reached Pyongyang, North Korea was furious. Officials immediately condemned the movie as blatant terrorism and an act of war. They warned that if Sony released it, the company would face ruthless and devastating revenge. Hollywood executives thought it was just another angry statement and didn't take it seriously. Until November 24, 2014, that morning, Sony executives woke up to disaster. Employee computers had been hacked. Thousands of screens suddenly displayed a red skull with a message underneath. I warned you. The hackers didn't stop there. They exposed employee private information and uploaded 5 unreleased blockbuster movies online for the world to watch for free. And if leaking data wasn't enough, they also released destructive malware known as a wiper. It erased hard drives across thousands of Sony computers and servers, instantly crippling the entire office network. Sony's workplace was thrown back into the Stone Age. Employees had to line up for paper and pens just to keep working. But the biggest spectacle of all was the leaked private emails of Sony executives. One producer called Angelina Jolie untalented and spoiled. Another executive named Clint insulted Kevin Hart. The most embarrassing case involved co-chair Amy Pascal. In private emails with co-workers, she mocked then-President Barack Obama, suggesting he probably only liked movies about black suffering. Once those emails became public, backlash exploded. Amy Pascal and other executives wished they could disappear on the spot, but instead had to personally call celebrities they insulted and apologize one by one. As the movie's premiere got closer, the hackers sent terror threats to Sony executives and major theater chains, warning that if they dared release The Interview, they would launch an attack on the scale of 9/11. That pressure forced Sony to cancel the film's full theatrical release. But unexpectedly, Sony's decision was publicly criticized by President Barack Obama. With Obama backing them and public pressure building, Sony eventually swallowed hard and released The Interview online through platforms like YouTube and Google Play. What happened next was almost comedic. North Korea's loud threats became free advertising. Huge numbers of people who had never even heard of the movie suddenly paid to watch it out of pure curiosity. Meanwhile, cyber investigators at the Federal Bureau of Investigation kept digging through the attack trail. By comparing malware fingerprints and tracing bouncing IP addresses, they reached a conclusion. the people behind the Sony attack were North Korean hackers. Besides the code similarities to earlier attacks, investigators also found several proxy IP addresses the hackers failed to hide properly. Coincidentally, those IPs had briefly appeared in Pyongyang. But these hackers were professionally trained and highly skilled at covering their tracks. Those outside clues alone were nowhere near enough to identify or arrest anyone. Then, just as the investigation hit a dead end, the WannaCry ransomware attack exploded in 2017. This virus didn't require anyone to click anything. If a computer was connected to the internet and missing security patches, it could be infected automatically. Within 24 hours, more than 150 countries and over 200,000 computers were hit. Screens were locked, demanding $300 in Bitcoin, or the victim's data would be destroyed. The scale of the disaster felt like a horror movie. One of the hardest hit targets was the National Health Service in the United Kingdom. Many hospitals in London were effectively paralyzed. Staff fought to keep operations running, but thousands of appointments were cancelled. Even MRI machines were locked by the ransomware, forcing surgeries to be delayed. In Germany, electronic train station displays were turned into ransom screens. In Spain, telecom giant Telefonica was hit. In the United States, Boeing was also affected. No one expected that, while security experts around the world were desperately trying to stop the virus, the global crisis would be diffused by a 22-year-old British man working from his bedroom. His name was Marcus Hutchins, a cybersecurity researcher. While analyzing WannaCry's code at home, he noticed a strange hidden detail. Before spreading, the malware always tried to access a bizarre website address that looked like random gibberish. Without overthinking it, Marcus spent $8 to buy the domain name. The moment he completed the purchase, the worldwide spread of WannaCry suddenly stopped. It turned out this was an emergency kill switch secretly built into the malware by the hackers themselves. If no one registered the website, the virus kept spreading. If someone did, the virus automatically shut down. Although the spread had stopped, the already infected 200,000 computers were still locked. Normally, ransomware gives each victim a unique Bitcoin wallet address. Once payment is made, the system identifies the victim and sends a decryption key. But these hackers may have spent all their energy on writing attack code because they got lazy with the payment system. Instead of unique wallets, more than 200,000 victims worldwide were told to send money to only 2 or 3 shared Bitcoin wallets, which meant even if someone paid $300, the hackers had no reliable way to know who sent it. Since paying didn't guarantee recovery, many victims simply refused. On top of that, global security experts and the Federal Bureau of Investigation were already watching those wallet addresses closely. If the hackers tried to move the money, it would be like running naked under a spotlight. Later, blockchain data showed that this massive ransomware attack, which shut down hospitals and factories worldwide and caused nearly $8 billion in damage, only brought in about 38.5 Bitcoin. Using 2017 exchange rates, that was worth only around $140,000. But the attack also gave the FBI new leads. Investigators eventually connected the Bangladesh bank heist, the Sony Pictures Entertainment hack, and WannaCry to the group behind them all, Lazarus Group, along with one of its alleged members, Park Jin-hyuk. This hacker group has become a nightmare for cybersecurity experts around the world. They're believed to be part of Unit 121 under North Korea's Reconnaissance General Bureau. The name Lazarus was actually a code name given to them by Kaspersky, a longtime cybersecurity rival. This isn't just a handful of hackers working in a basement. Reports estimate North Korea's cyber force has around 3,000 members. Thousands of elite minds focused on one mission every single day, stealing more US dollars online for the state. Based on years of tracking them, Kaspersky says the Lazarus network is highly organized. First, there's Lanov. This division only cares about money. They target global banks, the SWIFT system, and crypto exchanges. Some people joke that every grain of rice on Kim's dinner table and every missile part in storage may have been funded by Lanov's late-night hacking sessions. Then, there's Andario Group. They're more like an intelligence harvesting machine. Money isn't the priority. They focus on foreign military technology, nuclear secrets, and government websites. Their mission is sabotage and espionage, like breaking into South Korea's defense ministry to study war plans. Lazarus Group uses every tool imaginable. They've used million-dollar zero-day exploits, basically digital nuclear weapons, and also cheap phishing emails. They'll even romance targets online through social media to steal secrets. If they can break in, they'll take both the money and the data. Once their identity became clearer, U.S. authorities filed criminal charges against North Korean hackers for the first time in September 2018. The Federal Bureau of Investigation released a 170-page indictment detailing the crimes of Park Jin-hyuk, including the Sony Pictures Entertainment hack, the Bangladesh bank heist, and the WannaCry attack. In 2021, the United States Department of Justice expanded the charges. This time they added two more alleged members, Kim Il and John Chang-hyuk. Total damages were said to exceed $1.3 billion. Since then, Park Jin-hyuk has remained a regular name on the FBI's Cyber Most Wanted list. If you think being indicted slowed them down, think again. After 2020, Lazarus decided robbing banks was too much work and laundering money was too messy, so they turned to crypto. In 2022, they were blamed for the massive Ronin network heist. This time, they didn't rely on cracking code alone. They allegedly posed as executive recruiters on LinkedIn, messaging blockchain employees with fake million-dollar job offers and links to position details. The moment someone opened the attachment and dreamed of financial freedom, around $620 million in crypto was gone. A lot of people wonder, how does a country where buying a phone requires layers of approval and downloading apps may involve visiting physical stores, produce hackers capable of outplaying the FBI and the global financial system? The answer may lie in North Korea's brutally selective talent pipeline. If a child in Pyongyang or a remote village shows extraordinary math talent in elementary school, like mental math, faster than a calculator, or an unusual instinct for logic, they may be identified early. Those students are reportedly pulled from ordinary schools and sent to elite institutions like Pyongyang First Middle School, where they focus on advanced math, algorithms, cryptography, and programming. And that's just the beginning. The best of the best may later be recruited into Unit 121. To make up for weak domestic hardware and internet access, some are reportedly sent abroad to places like Russia, China, or Southeast Asia undercover as students or workers. While others their age play video games, they're studying exploits, malware evasion, and encryption systems. Park Jin-hyuk is said to be one example. He allegedly worked at a front company in Pyongyang that appeared to offer normal IT outsourcing websites, apps, coding jobs, but may have served as cover for cyber operations. Reports say it even had offices in places like Dalian, China. But life as a state hacker may be far less glamorous than it sounds. For them, hacking can become endless digital forced labor. They may receive better food, white rice, and apartments in Pyongyang, but life is tightly controlled and isolated from the outside world. Tai Yong-ho, a former insider, said hackers often worked intense shifts lasting more than 10 hours a day, searching for banking vulnerabilities and writing ransomware. Failure or laziness could bring harsh punishment. Even their computers were reportedly monitored, running North Korea's custom Red Star OS, where files could be digitally watermarked for tracking. They couldn't socialize freely, contact family whenever they wanted, or move without surveillance. To prevent defections, strict controls were reportedly enforced overseas. They weren't allowed to go out alone. Even buying cigarettes might require 3 people together, each watching the others. If one person escaped, the whole team and family back home could be punished. Researchers and defectors say this cyber force began under an earlier leader, originally focused on intelligence gathering and military pressure. But as sanctions tightened, weapons exports, coal smuggling, and counterfeit money operations became harder. Then these isolated genius hackers got a new order: make money. To this day, Park Jin-hyuk's whereabouts remain unknown. Some say he teaches students in an office building in Pyongyang. Others believe he changed identities and still operates quietly in Southeast Asia. But wherever he is, as long as the country needs foreign currency, Lazarus Group probably isn't going anywhere.